Every day, an invisible battle rages inside you, a ruthless war for control over your mind, your body, your destiny. Lust is the enemy that disguises itself as pleasure, but steals your power, your focus, and your future. The question isn't whether you'll face this fight. It's whether you have the strength to destroy lust and conquer yourself. This is a defining battle of real men. Will you surrender to weakness or rise with unbreakable discipline and claim your true power? The battle that defines every man's path is not fought in the streets, in competition, or on a battlefield. It's fought in silence, behind closed doors, in the depths of the mind where no one else sees. It's the war between impulse and intention, between the momentary thrill and the long-term goal. Lust is not just a desire for flesh. It is a representation of surrender, weakness, and the craving for comfort that steals your edge. It disguises itself as natural, harmless, even necessary, but in reality, it's the enemy of focus, the destroyer of masculine energy, and the silent assassin of discipline. Every time lust wins, purpose dies a little more. That's the truth most aren't willing to face. Men today are not lacking strength. They are lacking control. The power is there, buried under years of indulgence and distraction. Lust is the pressure valve that keeps men from becoming warriors. It leaks energy, confidence, ambition. A man who cannot say no to lust cannot say yes to greatness. He may want to rise, but he'll never fly, because he's chained to the lowest version of himself, the one that begs for ease, for release, for pleasure with no price. That man loses the war every single day. He may look fine on the surface, but inside his kingdom is burning. The first step in this war is awareness. Understand what you're fighting. You're not fighting porn. You're not fighting women. You're fighting the part of you that wants to escape pain, not endure it. You're fighting the part that fears discipline because it means accountability. That war will never end, but that's not weakness. That's power. Because a man who wakes up every day and chooses to fight again is the man who becomes dangerous. Not to others, to mediocrity, to his old self, to every distraction that ever tried to steal his time, his energy, his legacy. You don't rise by chance. You rise by war. And war requires a target. Lust is that target because it represents a beast inside that wants to devour your future. Let it live, and it will. Kill it. And you gain something no one can take, dominion over yourself. And once you own yourself, there is no man, no system, no temptation that can own you. That's the real power. Not wealth, not fame, mastery. And mastery begins with winning the war inside your own skin. Lust is the enemy wearing a friendly face. It whispers promises of release, of satisfaction, of feeling good just for a moment, but it never mentions a cost. It seduces you with ease and drains you of fire. Lust doesn't just steal time. It steals drive, focus, and masculine energy. It pretends to comfort you, but cripples your strength. Every click, every scroll, every indulgence in lust is a transaction where you trade long-term power for short-term pleasure, and most don't even realize it. You think you're winning because you're satisfying the body, but your spirit is starving. You're not relieving stress. You're reinforcing weakness. There is no freedom in lust, only dependency. It becomes a cycle. Desire, release, guilt, repeat. And every loop tightens the chains. You lose the hunger to build, to dominate, to strive. You start shrinking in the face of challenge. Lust doesn't just affect your bedroom. It infects your discipline, your ambition, your will to rise early and grind. You stop chasing purpose and start chasing comfort. Lust lowers your standards in every area of life. You stop being the hunter and become the hunted, trapped by your own cravings. You were not made for indulgence. You were made for war. Men were forged to conquer challenges, not escape into artificial fantasies. When you destroy lust, you're not killing a feeling. You're reclaiming your edge. You're saying no to every voice that wants you average, obedient, and passive. Lust wants you soft. It wants you weak. It wants you drained of energy so you don't build anything real. And the moment you say no, not once, but relentlessly, you start to rise. Your mind sharpens. Your confidence climbs. Your eyes clear. You start commanding your life instead of reacting to every impulse. You must understand what's at stake. This isn't about being good or moral. This is about power. When you're mastered by lust, you're not in control. You're addicted. And addiction is slavery dressed in pleasure. But when you destroy lust, you reclaim your sovereignty. You become the man who can walk into a storm and not flinch, who can say no to the world and yes to his mission. That kind of man is rare and dangerous, not because he harms others, but because nothing controls him. And a man who is free from lust is a man who cannot be seduced by weakness in any form. This is more than rejection. It's rebellion. Rebellion against mediocrity. Rebellion against distraction. Rebellion against the fake comfort that poisons potential. You don't need more pleasure. You need clarity, purpose, and discipline. And those are forged not in indulgence, but in the fires of restraint. Lust will tempt. It always will. But your power is not in denying that it exists. It's in proving every single day that it does not own you. Discipline is not a suggestion. It is not a life hack. It is a sword you carry into the battlefield of your mind every single day. When lust, laziness, and distraction strike, discipline is the only force that answers without hesitation. Motivation may get you started, but motivation is soft. It fades when things get uncomfortable. Discipline is forged in discomfort. It thrives in silence, in resistance, in choosing the hard path when no one is watching. It's the muscle most men never build because they're too busy chasing temporary highs instead of eternal strength. Chaos is a default state of the undisciplined mind. It jumps from thought to thought, craving stimulation, chasing dopamine, avoiding pain. But discipline is order. Discipline is structure. Discipline is control over chaos. It gives you command over your time, your focus, and your energy. The man who sharpens his discipline sharpens his life. He cuts away the noise. He silences the cravings. He puts himself in position to win, not by luck, but by design. Lust doesn't fear your words. It doesn't care about your promises. It only responds to action. And the only action that beats it every single time is a consistent, unrelenting application of discipline. Discipline gets up when comfort says, stay in bed. Discipline walks away when lust says, just once won't hurt. Discipline turns off the phone, closes a tab, and gets to work. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. You either wield discipline like a weapon, or you bleed from its absence. A man who lacks discipline is vulnerable to everything. Every urge, every distraction, every temptation controls him like a puppet. But a disciplined man becomes untouchable. He doesn't flinch when emotions hit. He doesn't fold under pressure. He builds routines that anchor him, habits that elevate him, and standards that separate him. That's how you build power, not by hoping things get easier, but by becoming the kind of man who gets harder to break. Discipline is not about perfection. It's about direction. Every rep, every choice, every moment you say no to lust and yes to purpose is a strike in your favor. You are either building your fortress or leaving it exposed. There is no in-between. You think skipping one morning routine doesn't matter. Giving in once won't change anything. But that's how kingdoms fall. One crack at a time. And that's how they rise. One unbreakable standard at a time. When the chaos comes, and it will, your discipline will be your shield. Not talent, not feelings, not luck. Just a raw, relentless decision to do what must be done. Discipline isn't the path of the weak. It's the only path for those who refuse to be owned by weakness. There is no neutral ground. Every single day you are either fighting for your higher self or being conquered by your lower nature. The man who thinks he can coast, who thinks he can rest without consequence, is already losing. Silence doesn't mean peace. It means surrender if you're not intentional. Lust doesn't need an invitation. It creeps in through boredom, through weakness, through the quiet moments when your guard drops. And if you're not at war, you're being ambushed. That's the reality most men refuse to face. You either rise and fight, or you fall and fade. There's no third option. No truce with lust. No negotiation with weakness. The battle for self-mastery isn't a one-time decision. It's a daily declaration of war. You win by showing up, by resisting when it's hardest, by embracing pain instead of running from it. When you skip that workout, given a lust, or break your word to yourself, you're not resting. You're being conquered, inch by inch, piece by piece. Until one day, you don't even recognize a man in the mirror because he was slowly taken over by compromise. Every urge you give in to takes ground away from you. It weakens your command over your mind. And every time you resist, you build a wall of discipline brick by brick. That's how you win the war. Not with one big heroic act, but with relentless commitment to doing the hard thing when it would be easy to fold. Most people wait to feel ready. Warriors act regardless of how they feel. You can't control the temptations, but you damn sure can control the response. That response is the difference between domination and defeat. Self-conquest is the most brutal battle you will ever fight. No enemy is more persistent, more deceptive, or more embedded than the one inside you. It knows your weaknesses. It speaks your language. It knows exactly how to justify delay, how to rationalize indulgence, how to convince you to lower your standards just this once. But here's the truth. If you're not fighting it, it's winning. And the longer you delay that fight, the harder it gets to take your power back. Conquering yourself means creating discipline where there was chaos. It means breaking patterns that have ruled you for years. It means being honest with yourself when the world wants you to stay distracted and numb. The man who conquers himself walks with a different presence. His decisions are calculated, not reactive. His emotions serve him. They don't control him. His power isn't in volume. It's in restraint, in the silent refusal to be ordinary, in the daily execution of a standard that most wouldn't dare to keep. If you are not at war, you are being conquered. No enemy needs to break you when you're already breaking yourself in quiet surrender. This life belongs to the man who shows up to battlefield daily, not to the one who waits for convenience. Victory over lust is not the finish line. It is the foundation. Lust is only the first enemy, the most visible one, the loudest in its temptation. But defeating it unlocks a level of clarity that exposes every other weakness that's been hiding in the shadows. Once lust is conquered, the mask is ripped off comfort, procrastination, self-pity, and every form of internal sabotage. Lust is the gatekeeper. Beat it, and you don't just reclaim your energy. You awaken a version of yourself that refuses to bow to anything less than greatness. Most men don't even realize how much of their strength is being siphoned by lust. It drains more than your body. It drains your vision, your urgency, your purpose. Without realizing it, you become numb to your own potential. Every indulgence in lust sends a message to your subconscious. I am a slave to impulse. And slaves don't build empires. They obey. They follow. They chase the next hit. Victory over lust is the declaration of independence from that slavery. It's the point where you stop chasing dopamine and start chasing legacy. When you defeat lust, everything else sharpens. Your workouts become more intense. Your work becomes more focused. Your words carry more weight. Your posture shifts. Your voice deepens. Your presence grows. Why? Because you've stopped leaking power. You've dammed the flow of energy that was being wasted, and now it builds pressure, force, momentum. You become more dangerous, not to others, but to mediocrity, to distraction, to every excuse that once held you back. The man who controls lust controls his destiny. He is no longer reactive. He becomes a weapon, a force that cuts through noise, temptation, and fear. His actions are deliberate, not emotional. He doesn't move based on how he feels. He moves based on who he's becoming. And every day that he chooses mastery over indulgence, he forges himself into a sharper, stronger, more focused weapon of purpose. That's why lust is such a critical battleground, because it's the entry point to deeper discipline, to harder truths, to unshakable identity. This isn't about repression. It's about redirection. You don't lose energy when you overcome lust. You reclaim it. You transmute it into action, into focus, into fire. That same intensity you once gave to fantasy now fuels your mission. The world won't understand it. They're still feeding their impulses, still bowing to comfort. But you'll move different, talk different, work different, and people will feel it without even knowing why. Defeating lust is not the final war. It's the first great battle. It's the proving ground that teaches you how to fight, how to endure, and how to win. Once you've beaten that voice inside that said, just this once, you've proven that no voice can own you again. You've stepped beyond pleasure and into power. The war within never ends, but every battle won strengthens the man you're becoming. Destroying lust is not just about resisting temptation. It's about reclaiming your power, sharpening your focus, and mastering yourself in a world designed to distract and weaken you. True victory comes when discipline becomes your default, when you no longer react but respond with purpose. Conquer yourself, and you become unstoppable, because the greatest conquest is always the one within.